My name is Jonny Scalise, and I'm a biologist with the Balcones Canyonlands Preserve, also called BCP for short. The Balcones Canyonlands Preserve is land that's set aside for endangered species. Today we are on Long Canyon, which is a tract of the BCP that's 480 acres large. We are going to enjoy some prime golden-cheeked warbler habitat, which is one of our endangered species that's protected by the permit and preserve lands. Let's go enjoy this hike. The Long Canyon tract was purchased by the city in 1993, and we can still see evidence of prior land use on this preserve. This cistern, for example, held water that local residents used as a water source. On Long Canyon, we also see signs of degraded habitat. We see invasive grass species. Here's a large patch of King Ranch bluestem. In 2018, we saw a really cool mushroom right over here, the Texas cigar mushroom. It's only known to occur in Texas and Japan, so pretty cool for a mushroom. We can also see throughout most of this area star moss, which is a species of moss that's found in almost every continent except for Antarctica. Here we see some of the star moss. We just had rain recently, so it's turned bright green. This moss is great because it covers the ground and helps prevent erosion. We just encountered our first creek crossing. This creek is a tributary to Bull Creek, and it is spring fed, and so it's a good water source almost year round. There's several ways that we can see that it's spring fed. Right along here is a travertine dam. So the travertine is calcium deposits that collect after the water comes up from underground, and then it collects these dams. And we also see maidenhair ferns. Maidenhair ferns are often associated with spring-fed water. Just downstream also there's several other species of fern. I think I see a wood fern. There's other aquatic adapted plants. Here we have one of our riparian plants. It's called American Beautyberry. It's got these really vibrant purple berries that are a great source of food for wildlife. The berries are also edible for humans, but they kind of have a strong, like, perfumey, flowery taste. The leaves are also heard to be a natural mosquito repellent. So let's go ahead and carefully cross the creek and move on. Now we are standing in a tributary to Bull Creek that is currently dry, but at certain times of year it's a pretty impressive flow. And we're right above a waterfall that is really spectacular when the water is flowing. You can still hear some trickling of water, which suggests that there's subsurface flow happening. So even though the creek that we're standing in is dry, there's still water moving through the system. This water is really important for Jollyville Plateau salamanders. We've not found any in this creek, but nearby, just on the other side of the road, is populations of the species of concern, the Jollyville Plateau salamander. The Jollyville Plateau salamander relies on clean spring water for survival, and because of this, it's a good indicator species of water quality. By preserving large tracts of land, we're able to protect larger areas for cleaner, fresher water for species like the Jollyville Plateau salamander. Just found this used nest of a white-eyed vireo. They make hanging cup nests on forks of branches and line the nest with juniper bark and decorate the outside as camouflage with moss from the area. White-eyed vireos are a migratory songbird that enjoy the benefits of the preserve. Here we have one of the invasive exotic plants that we control on the preserve. This is Chinese privet. Right now you can sort of see the green berries. These will turn dark purple when they're ripe. This plant is commonly used in landscaping for homes, and it escapes into wild areas like the preserve. And without natural predators in this continent, it has advantages that it can take over and occupy habitat for that native species would be using. We just hiked uphill and now we are in some prime golden cheek warbler habitat. So the golden cheek warblers have already moved south for the winter, but this is where they would be in the spring. Golden cheek warblers come to Central Texas for the food sources that they can take advantage of. Golden cheek warblers are insectivores, so that means that they eat insects. One of their favorite foods is caterpillars that feed on leaves of trees. Behind me is a Texas red oak or Spanish oak, Quercus bucklei. This is one of the trees that golden cheek warblers look for food. Female golden cheek warblers are dependent on ash juniper trees. So right here is a large ash juniper tree. The female warblers build their nests out of bark from mature ash juniper trees. The bark gets really flaky and females will pick off small pieces and build a cup that's made up primarily of bark from the ash juniper tree. They often place these nests in ash junipers, and this provides them great camouflage from predators. Here we can see some rock that's typical of the Edwards Formation. This rock was formed by initially tiny worms and other small animals that lived at the bottom of a shallow sea. About 100 million years ago, the Austin area was covered in a warm, shallow ocean with a muddy bottom where these animals burrowed in the mud. Over the millennia, the ocean receded and eventually the mud turned into stone and was exposed. Once exposed, rainwater collected in small divots in the rocks, and wherever it collected, the slightly acidic nature of the water caused the holes where the worms had burrowed to expand. And that's how we end up with this honeycomb nature of rock. Ash juniper trees, also known as cedar trees, are great trees because of their ability to help build soil. Trees are very prolific. They produce a lot of seeds and are also early colonizers, so they are able to establish in areas that are poor quality habitat for other plants, and they help by building soil and that other plants and trees can take advantage of. One way that they do that is with their needle fall. Here we can see an example of the ash juniper needles creating these dams. So as rainfall is flowing across the surface, the needles will collect and actually slow down the water and help water sink into the soil and earth that's there instead of just flowing off. So it's great for building soil because as the needles decay, they turn into soil for other plants and provide nutrients. And they also help sink and slow water. Here we come across a scenic overlook, and right behind us we can see some beautiful canyons covered in juniper oak woodlands. This is perfect habitat for golden cheek warblers. We can also see signs of urban development. We see houses and we can hear things like leaf blowers. This is pretty typical of preserves in Austin. We have development that comes right up to preserve boundaries. These boundaries are problematic for the species that we're trying to protect. often nest predators are more typically associated with urban development. So things like rat snakes and scrub jays, blue jays, crows are more likely to occur near homes. And so having as large of patches of habitat as possible is better for preservation of our endangered golden cheek warbler. Here we can see a nice diversity of tree species that represents typical trees in juniper oak woodlands. We've got your ash juniper tree, Texas red oak, and live oaks, as well as a diverse understory. This kind of habitat is exactly what we're trying to preserve for the endangered golden cheek warbler, so that every spring the birds have somewhere to return and build their nests and create healthy offspring for the future generations of birds. Thanks for coming to enjoy it with us.